Hey everyone, this is Dave Thompson from Bare Bones Leadership, coming to you live tonight with our first ever live webinar. The subject tonight is going to be the 3 non-negotiable priorities of leadership. A little bit about Bare Bones Leadership. It's a program and a company that I founded to fill in some gaps throughout my military and law enforcement careers, specifically in law enforcement. I have certainly witnessed a lot of gaps that needed to be filled, specifically in the leadership roles, in leadership that I had and leadership that was certainly lacking. And so that's, in a nutshell, how Bare Bones Leadership was born. About myself, I spent 23 years in the military. I spent 20 years in law enforcement, retiring from both. Some of my experiences, I spent time with the engineers in the military, in the U.S. Army. Any of my leadership training and leadership experiences certainly came from a combat deployment that really solidified and tested my leadership skill sets. Some humbling lessons for sure. I wouldn't change it for the world. And on the law enforcement side, I certainly learned what I didn't want to emulate. And there were a lot of lessons in what not to do and what was not effective. And then there were certainly certain people, certain leaders, true leaders, who helped solidify some of the lessons that I had learned through the military and being in certain situations and on certain teams within law enforcement. So tonight, what we're going to start off with, in my humble opinion, where Bare Bones Leadership starts when we speak about anything related to leadership. We like to start off with the 3 non-negotiable priorities of leadership. And we start off with these due to the fact that no matter where you go, no matter what path you go down in your leadership journey, in your leadership development, no matter what industry you're in, no matter how you find yourself as a leader, whether it's appointed, whether it's assumed, or whether you're an influential teammate, these 3 priorities, if stuck to, and if they are applied properly, consistently, will certainly help you to develop your own leadership skill set and help develop leaders that come after you, right? And help develop your subordinates, your follows, for lack of a better term. These are, again, in our opinion, non-negotiable, have to be there. in order for you to be effective and have a level of success in leadership. Now, that's not the be all end all. There's, 11 principles of leadership that we follow, and there's all different types of rabbit holes that we can go down, and we'll probably go down a few tonight. So when we talk about the priorities, the very first priority is the overall goal. The organization's overall goal, the mission statement, the mission, whether you work for a company, whether you work in corporate America, whether you work in first responder agency, law enforcement, firefighter, it's applicable across the board, right? It's the goal. You need a goal. We can talk about all day long what we'd like to accomplish, right? We would like to talk about what we're going to do, what objectives we're going to hit, what we're going to do. And we can have these conversations back and forth. But until those ideas and those thoughts get put down onto something, they're just thoughts, right? They're just hopes and wishes. When we actually put those thoughts down, they become the beginning of a plan. They become the beginning of a roadmap to where we want to be. They Julio, I see you there. I'm sorry. Trying to get you. Is your video on?
No, I have my I'm on my phone, so.
All right, I got you.
Yeah.
All right. So we're covering the first priority, which is the goal, the overall mission statement. Why that's important is we can talk about our ideas as an organization, as a division, as a team. We can talk about them all day long. If we don't have something actionable, something that we can put down, something that we can make tangible, there's no way we can set a plan to reach that goal. If it stays up in our ideas, in our conversations, in our head, those are just hopes and wishes of things we want to do. That does the organization as a whole no good. Once we have that goal or that mission statement, and it's tangible, we have something that we want to work towards, then we can start building our plan towards that. Once that plan is built, it still has to be articulated and it has to be communicated effectively to everybody. What I've seen falter is communication not being fully cycled through. Meaning, if I say we're going to do A and then just leave the room, I have no idea if anyone has a true grasp of what we're doing or why we're doing it. When we articulate something, there's 3 points of communication, right? It is the delivery, the acceptance, and then the feedback. So we get those 3 total points hit. So so I know what I put out was grasped, understood, and then fed back to me. Okay, good. Now I understand that. Now we can move forward. With that, I need to articulate what we're doing, the goal, and then why we're doing it. This is our mission. This is why we're doing the mission. The how we're going to do it, that's up to you. Right? From then on, I'm a resource. As if I'm running the mission, or I am the taskmaster, or I am the guy who is, in charge for the day, I'm telling you what we need to do, why we need to do it. My expectation is that I don't have to stay there and hover over you and complete the how as well. You come up with a plan, we talk about the plan, we tweak it if we have to, and then you run with it. Without that, I no longer have any accountability. If I tell you the how and micromanage that process, I have no accountability. There's nothing there. It is what it is. I take all the accountability, all the responsibility, all the liability. It's all on me. As a leader, in practical terms, you don't have the ability to process and finish the how. You don't. Your responsibilities are way too much. They're just way too much. The importance of setting the goal gives everyone something to work for, right? We can get into buy-in and believability and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, if you have the what and the why, the task and the purpose, you don't really need the believability. You just need to know that this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. We're not all consistently going to have believability in what we're doing, right? We might have a philosophical belief in what we're doing is aligned with our values and principles, but not every objective we're going to agree with in getting there, right? Because there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and we might not agree with the way we're doing it today. That's fine. But for the betterment of the team, but for us ticking off the objectives and getting to the goal, then that's what we have to do. We don't need to make it tailored to every single person. We just have to understand the why, and get there. When we talk about the second goal, the second priority, we talk about the team, the people. Without people, without a team, the goal is useless, right? There's no team, there's no objectives getting hit. There's no objectives getting hit. There's no goals being accomplished, right? There's no missions being satisfied. It's just not happening. The importance of the team and taking care of the team is twofold. It is, for practical purposes, getting everybody to accomplish what we set out to do, right? The second part of that is you have to take care of them just like anything else. In a very heartless sounding, emotionalist way, they are the tools we need to accomplish the mission, right? They're a resource. But you have to take care of them. And when we talk about these days, it all comes down to like these superficial, tangible, very superficial things to do for people, and that takes care of them. That's not going to cut it. So the couple of things that we talk about all the time, if you are going to take an appointed leader position, an appointed leadership position, if you're an assumed leadership position, or if you are an influential team member, you shall know human nature, right? You have to understand the way a human being works. You have to understand it, from the physiological, biological, neurological, psychological. You have to have a good basic grasp of what human beings are all about. So human beings have basic needs, right? This comes from Abraham Maslow, the hierarchy of human needs. And it's a pyramid. And the first rung of that pyramid is your basic human needs: food, water, shelter, procreation, and all those things. And those will basically get taken care of on their own at home and those kind of things. When you get to a work environment, though, the two last things on that bottom rung is safety and security. Human beings need to feel a level of safety and security. So if they're not safe and secure in their job, in their position, in their day-to-day, and you see this a lot on the first responder side of things. I can only guess in corporate side, I'm thinking that, position quotas, quarterly marks, all those other things, that plays with your safety and security, right? Because you want that safety and security at home. You need to stabilize the home, right? Those things have to be met. How do you do that? How do you offer safety and security to your people? Well, that's a case-by-case basis, right? From where I came from, it was building trust, teams, those type of things. Without the safety and security, without that bottom rung, a human being will never be effective in the second and moving up to the second rung, which is building relationships, right? We talk about relationship building, and I'm not getting into, having dinners and Sundays, weekend ski trips and all that other stuff. That's bonus, that's great. But at the end of the day, building neutral professional relationships. If you lack safety and security, or the feeling of safety and security, it's the chances of you building trust and confidence with other people, the chances aren't very good that you're going to have a productive, effective relationship with someone else, right? Because that basic human need will certainly outshine and vie for your attention, right? That will always be first. That would always, if those aren't set and established, the human will always revert back to satisfying that need first. Then build the relationship. Once those things, the second rung is done, then the human works on self-actualization and reaching full potential. That's the basis of Abraham Maslow. The other person we tend to lean a lot on is Robert Greene. And there's some controversy, or some people, I understand, with the 48 laws of power, but he also has a book, The Power of Human Nature, which is absolutely insane, and it really hammers home the neurological, the physiological, the biological, all of the nuances of the human condition. As a leader, on any level, that human condition, you have to be as fundamentally sound in how a human being works. Another thing that we tend to grab onto, and I will say in the past 5 or 7 years, has been this big push on empathy, right? Be empathetic to your coworkers, or empathetic to this, that, and everything else. And that, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I much prefer perspective to empathy. Empathy tends to be much more emotionally driven, where perspective is more rational, right? There's more rational thinking behind perspective. And then I get it, in certain industries, a lack of empathy is seen as cold and disheartening and things like that. But remember the goal, remember the first priority. That is above everything. It's above pettiness. It's above all the social hot topics of the day. It's about personal feeling. It's above all that. All that other nonsense is irrelevant when it comes to the goal, right? We can dive into a little side note here. When we talk about doing like bureaucratic work or government work versus doing the corporate or civilian side work, I read it almost ideally, where if we're working for a government or bureaucratic agency, the only thing we have to do is maintain the status quo, right? The pros of that is we can stabilize the house. We can provide we can be the providers and the protectors and those type of things. That gives us that ability, of course. What it stunts, though, is reflexive thinking, innovation. It stunts critical thinking, decision making, because all we have to do is the status quo, right? The budgets are going to be set, everything's going to be done. There's no incentive to go above and beyond and to be innovative, to be creative, right? To push the envelope. There is no incentive to do that. But it's comfortable, right? It's comfortable, it's secure. I can stabilize my family, and there's nothing wrong with that. So help me God, there's nothing wrong with that. On the corporate civilian side, innovation's key, right? Innovation's key. Critical thinking, thinking on your feet, making the decision and living with it. Doing all those things, the common denominator in both of them is it's the people, right? The people are doing that. They're maintaining the status quo. They're innovating. They have to be taken care of. They have to be. There's no doubt about it. And in a little bit, I'll bring this all together when we talk about being 3 priorities. So the third priority is me, right? Myself. And when I talk about myself, it's not in a, ego, narcissistic type way. What I mean is, I have to be the example. I have to lead myself daily, right? It was General Hal Moore. He's one of my favorite military leaders in the history of military leadership. Lead self daily. I have to set the example. I have to live by the 3 priorities of leadership, and they're non-negotiable to me, right? I have to find my values and principles. I have to develop the creed or the ethos in which I'm going to set the example. And I have to live those every day. So if I'm in a industry where physical fitness is a matter of somebody being injured or worse, then I have to put in the work every single day to set the example. If I'm going to talk to somebody or counsel somebody about the way they present, the way they articulate, the way they do anything, and I am not that, I am not who I pretend to be, I've lost. There's no way in heck I have any expectation of credibility, of high respect, of transparency, of taking care of somebody. I'm not building trust into the team that I have the ability to take care of them if I can't take care of myself. So if that ties into this warped sense of I move up, I do less, right? I don't even know where this whole thing came from, where I move up, my responsibilities go down. That's not the way it works. I can imagine, like, on the civilian side, if you take a higher position with a higher benefit package, higher compensation, higher whatever, and extra perks, and then produce less, I can imagine that you're not going to be in that position very long. That depletes your trust, your credibility capital, your transparency, and it hurts the overall team. You're putting one above the sum of the whole. You're putting yourself and your selfish needs above the team. That hurts the goal. That's, in a nutshell, why I call the 3 priorities of leadership non-negotiable. The goal has to be articulated. It has to be communicated properly. The team, in order for them to take care of the goal, has to be taken care of. The fundamental basic human needs have to be met. The biggest thing you can do as a leader is develop and build an environment to where those needs are met, right? To have an expectation that you can do everything, that's that's short-sighted. But if you build the environment, just like anything else, you build the culture and the environment, and the culture is always based on the top dog's personal values and principles. That has been shown to be accurate throughout the history of leadership, right? Build the environment, build it, and they will come. That it's that simple, and they're all simple. So we can go 1, 2, and 3 with these priorities. We can also very easily go 1, 1A, and 1B because they're that tied into each other. That is the quickest summary without getting into too many rabbit holes of the 3 priorities of leadership. I hope you guys got something out of it. I know I ran a little, over the time. Any questions?
It's good stuff, Dave.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to listen and learn a little bit something. I mean, I think you and I have share some of the same ideas, same perspectives on certain things, right? So, it just the way you put it in certain ways kind of even validates my perspective, right? And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's a lot of us out there that get that validation from listening to you. So it's no, I absolutely appreciate it. This is great stuff.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I appreciate you jumping on. It's huge. Just
Yeah,
to
no, no worries.
just as a just to let you know, this was recorded, and I can certainly take out the last piece